If you have any desire to develop a deeper partnership with your horse, develop your skills as a horseman or horsewoman, or develop your horse's skills as your partner, I'm going to break down for you right now in this video my approach to developing the skills in the partnership with our horses. And we're going to start with a couple of the massive industry issues that we're facing and some of the things that are being taught out there that's setting you and your horses up to end up in some potentially very dangerous or deadly situations. And I say that very literally because that's exactly how I see it. It's exactly what students that have come to me from other programs have said. I don't do this video to burn bridges, but I do this to basically build a bridge to help you get from where you're at with your horse to where you want to go. Because over the last couple of weeks, we've been sharing in-depth videos on developing smooth transitions, developing your horse's top line, all these types of things that have a lot of very valuable information on exercises and approach within the training sense. But if you don't understand the approach to actually how we're working with our horses, you can only get so far. And ultimately, I think that, horses are one of the biggest blessings that God gives to us as horsemen and as horsewomen. Whether you're, a trail rider, whether you're an equestrian, whether you're a cowboy or a cowgirl, whatever term that you affiliate with, many of us are willing to make changes in our lives for the better, whether that's mental changes, emotional changes, physical changes, spiritual changes on our end on behalf of our horses. Things that we wouldn't normally do for ourselves, whether that's starting to work out, losing weight, eating healthier, starting to pray, starting to get more connected to God, and starting to get more control of our emotions, starting to work through childhood trauma situations. There's so many things that horses can be the catalyst for in our lives. And as horse people, we understand that. Many people outside the horse industry don't understand why we make the sacrifices we do, sometimes financial sacrifices and physical sacrifices and lifestyle sacrifices, because of the passion that we have for horses. And as equestrians, as horse people, as cowboys and cowgirls, we understand that. You and I get that. In the industry right now, and over the last couple of years, it has been this big mushroom cloud of a situation of certain professionals leaning into developing the skills. And then there's other professionals out there that are just going, you need to do the partnership, you need to do the partnership, you need to do the partnership first. And it's like, some people are saying you need the skills first, some people are saying you need the partnership first. And there's been this divide, there's been this separation and this division. And a lot of it is, this divisiveness is in the atmosphere. And that's why I said at the very beginning, this is to build a bridge to get you from where you are to where you want to go, and not to burn bridges with other professionals in the industry that have different approaches, because there's different strokes for different folks, right? I'm merely going to share with you my approach and why I take it when I go about it this way. And I think one of the worst things that we can do is separate the development of the partnership with our horse from the development of our skills with our horse. I'm going to ask you this question really quickly. I want you to think about a super strong relationship that you have with another human in your life right now. I want you to think about, maybe it's your spouse, your husband, or your wife. Maybe it's a really close friend that you've known for years or decades. I want you to think of the person that you have that bond with. And I want you to ask yourself, when you reflect on that relationship for the amount of time that in the experiences that you've had with that person, has that relationship just been all, sunflowers and rainbows and it's all been pretty? Or has that relationship always just been the ugly side? It's just constantly been ugly and grinding and all the turmoil and the frustration. You can't have a friendship or a relationship based on that, right? It's not all good either, right? You know that you've been through the good, the bad, the ugly. You've been through the good times and the low times together. You've had good times and low times. They've had good times and low times. But you've been able to go through, and maybe you've had exciting times, and you've had scary times, and you've had sad times. Some people have gotten married, and then family members have died, and then tragic events happen, and then somebody starts a business, and there's just all these experiences of life, and you think about that really strong friendship and relationship that you have with that human, and it's so super strong because you've gone through life together. You've done the amazing things. You've been through the tough things together. And that's when what I was to be able to create that bond together. My wife and I share that relationship, and we share that relationship and partnership that we have as a married couple. But at the same time, we've been able to develop the skills together to go out there and raise a family and build businesses and to build our marriage around God and all of these types of things. And we've done those at the same time. It hasn't been something that we do separately. I think when we look at the relationships that we have from a human to human side, in this instance, we can directly correlate that over to our horses and go, why in the living hell would we separate the skill development from the partnership development? Because in the worst of times and in the best of times, we need a deep partnership, and we need those skills that we can depend on with our horses. And our horses need to know that they can depend on us as well as their partner and as their leader that has skills to keep that horse safe, to provide that horse with guidance, to tell that horse what to do. They need to know that you're going to communicate with them in a fair way and in a consistent way, so that way they can use their skills and they can understand what they need to do to navigate something that could be really exciting and really fun, or something to get out of a very treacherous and dangerous type situation. But in the best of times and the worst of times, we never need them separately. We always need the partnership, and we need the skills to be built together. And the idea of separating these things, and it's become very trendy because these professionals are talking about things that sell. They're trying to hit certain groups out there of someone that's very emotionally fed, and they're like, oh, you should want your horse to love you, so you should go sit in the field and play duck, duck, goose with your horse, and just let that horse give you consent, and then it'll just morph over time, but the horse will be 27 years old and you'll get nothing done, and then you'll be crying because you had this beautiful relationship with your horse, and now it's time to let him rest, and that was your last horse. And I feel bad because that's the pathway that leads to. It's very emotionally fed. It sells because it gives dopamine in the short term, but it doesn't actually serve the human and the horse in a meaningful way. Okay? And some of you guys might go, well, that's not for you to judge. Well, I'm merely sharing with you my approach to this. Versus on the skills side of things, right? Horses aren't robots. They're not mechanical machines. So there comes a point at which, if we want to have that deep connection, if we want the skills to be better, if we want our horses to develop their skills and to be athletes and to be dependable, and maybe you want a trail horse, right? But you want that horse to have really solid skills that are going to keep you safe. There's a level at which the skills alone can only rise to such a high enough level. But then when you also have that partnership, when you have that trust, when you have that willingness and that understanding, that confidence as a partner, and you inject that with the skills, your horse's ability to be able to actually execute on the skills that you need them to goes to a whole nother level when that's possible. But if merely they're just being treated like robots and they're just little cogs in the machine, they're only ever going to give you so much. And there's another level of ability and willingness and skills that gets unlocked when we have the partnership along with it. And when I talk about building the partnership and the skills together, I talk about this to my students as developing a working partnership with our horses. And the working partnership is based on three things: purpose, partnership, performance. Okay, and performance is skills. But everything we do with our horses has a purpose. Whether that's from the groundwork to the round pen work to the ridden skills, everything we do with our horses has a purpose. How we feed them, how we lead them, everything we do has a purpose. And that purpose is not just because you're developing a ranch horse, right? And that has to have a job. You might have a trail horse, you might have a hunter jumper horse, and that dynamic might be different, but it's about the intentionality and the reasoning behind it. And it gives us a different level of energy and confidence and clarity and consistency to work with our horses and how we move with our horses when we have purpose. You can move with purpose, and it changes the dynamic because you're not just doing something to do something, and you're not doing something with no reason. You're doing it very intentionally with a purpose. And that tremendously impacts how you communicate with your horse and what you actually do with your horse, which leads you to the partnership side, right? Partnership, so we go out there and we pick that 1, 2, 3 things that we're really working on with our horse on that daily basis. And what we're working on is developing the skills. And we're doing that with purpose. And how we present that to our horses, that develops the partnership. But we build them together. We do it together. it's practical to do it together. Many of us don't have time to go sit out in the field and play duck, duck, goose with our horse and then go back to the arena or then go to the place where you can actually do more training type maneuvers and exercises and skills-based development and do it separately. Life's busy and it never makes sense. It's not efficient in the preparation phase or in the time where you actually need the partnership and the skills. You need them together. So what we do develops the skills, and how we do it develops the partnership. There's other folks out there that are telling you like, but it'll take you 12 years to get your horse quote unquote finished. And that's just a bunch of garbage. And another huge factor that is floating around out there that is holding so many students back that absolutely drives me nuts is professionals that are out there constantly throwing the flag of the finish line further out in front, telling their students, hey, it's gonna take 7 years, 12 years, 15 years for you to be able to get to this point. And as a student, you kind of just go, well, okay, that I trust this person, that's how long it's gonna take. And they constantly move it out, or they tell you, you have to do all of these other things before you possibly can get to the next level. And it's merely to keep you entrenched within their program and not to actually help you achieve the result. And they're worried that their students are gonna leave and that they're gonna go explore other things. And I think as a professional, the best thing that we can do is actually encourage our students to go out there and learn from as many different people, as many different disciplines as possible, and try to take the best pieces from all these different areas. Because as somebody that didn't grow up in this industry, and I got a quote unquote late start into horses, you know, I ran into this exact issue with people telling me, oh, it's gonna take this long, or you're too far behind, you'll never be able to catch up, or your horse has to be able to do this, 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 and this. When in fact, that's not how this works at all. And the fact that we do have processes and we do have steps for us people so that we can learn the steps and the processes, but ultimately we cannot take our eye off the fact that, hey, you know, some of our horses will present us with a gift and they'll start to connect the dots. And when that horse presents us the gift and the horse is like, oh, you wanted this, and you say, yes, like, let's go with it, then we can open these doors to being able to get further along. And we have to understand that when we put the time and consistency in, it's not always the number of years, but it's the time and the consistency on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that compounds over time. And there has to be a level of practicality, and that's what I try to share with you guys, is by not separating the skills in the partnership, by honestly just straight up looking at what are you doing with your horse? How are you presenting to your horse? How frequently are you doing yours? Are you working with purpose? Cool, if we get those ingredients to the recipe ironed out efficiently, and we can streamline that process, you can achieve your goals with your horse much quicker than you possibly could imagine. We can't overlook the fact that it takes time to develop physical strength, physical balance, endurance, right? There are certain things that we cannot rush. You can't force the partnership. You can't force them to become fit, right? Without breaking them down. So that there's certain things you can't do in that way. But with time and consistency, you can get way further a lot sooner than you ever imagined. And once we got that, then it's like, what direction do you want to go? What direction do you want to take that partnership and those skills? What do you enjoy doing with your horse? Let's go do that. What other skills on top of, now that you're safe, now that you guys can trust each other, you've got a good partnership, you have influence over your horse's thoughts, their emotions, their body, what direction do you want to take it? Right? Because good leadership is the ability to influence. And if we want to be a leader worth following, you have to develop influence with your horses. There is such a journey in that. One of the things I wanted to share with you guys is that over the years, I've been guilty, I think like many of you, of trying to do things on my own, trying to, you know, sort things out all by myself and lone wolfing it per se. And because it can be hard to sometimes find people that get it, that share an approach, that share values of making sure that we're putting that horse first, that we're also practically developing the skills in the partnership together. And it can be tough. I grew up in a small town where it was tough to get access to quality professionals. And as my skills have developed, as our business has developed, I've never really lost touch with that piece of it, because in the beginning it was really, really tough to get started. And still even now when I get travel and teach clinics, you'll tell me time and time again, oh my gosh, I wish you were closer. It's hard to find quality professionals around like this. And I think that as a horse industry, whether, you know, it's folks that ride recreationally or ride professionally, I always say together we rise. The better our industry is, and I think that as a common goal within the industry is that we should all want to hopefully leave this industry in a better place than when we got here, than when we found it, when we came into it. And that's one of my biggest goals. And we have a project in the works for professionals called the Horse Business Builders Network. But for those of you guys that are here watching this video on the horsemanship side of things, we have spent the last couple of months completely revamping our community. And it's called the CAVVY Community. It's linked down below. And it's completely built on this approach. And it's a community first and education resource second. There's hundreds of videos from working with Mustangs to warm bloods to quarter horses to step-by-step exercises to case studies where we're taking training horses and working through them all the way through their training process. The community itself, though, is where it's at. That is where the magic happens. That is where you have access to, for me to answer a lot of your questions, for you to connect with other people. There's a marketplace in there so that you can do business and be able to connect with people that have shared values, that you can trust, that you're not going to get scammed. We've called it a CAVVY because a CAVVY is a herd of ranch horses, and ranch horses have real purpose. The cowboys and those horses have to have a real partnership, and ultimately those skills have to be dependable, reliable, and solid. It's an approach that fits all horses, all disciplines, because ultimately we're working with the horse based on how the horse thinks, what motivates them, what doesn't motivate them. And a big part of the CAVVY, guys, is for those that are actually going to go put in the work. So I'm not saying it's for everybody, right? But if you want the results, you got to be able to be willing to go put in the work. And there's a big element of that, which is on the human development side, right? The better that we can be as people, the better we can be to serve our horses, to serve our families, to serve our communities. And so merely just putting this video out there. By the time this video is out, it's launched, it's open, it's reopened. We've had this community going for a couple of years, but we've poured into it over the last couple of months to make it ready for you guys. And so we'd certainly love if this video resonated with you, if it sounds like you share those values and you want that type of support and you want to have that type of a community that you can lean on no matter where you're at in the world, then I highly recommend you just go click that link down in the bio or down in the description and check out the CAVVY Community. You can try it free for a week, right? You can jump in there completely free, check it out, see if it's for you. And we'd certainly love to have you join us there. At the very least, if you don't jump in the CAVVY Community, right, like go down in the comments and let me know what was your biggest takeaway from this video. What was something that really resonated that you think we need to talk more about as a horse industry, because we're here together, we rise. I want to bring real raw information that's practical horse training, personal development to help you guys out. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out for this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.